A broken father saves a lost heiress on a stormy bridge. Together they fight despair and find second chances. Rain hammered down on Brooklyn Bridge like the sky itself was tipping over. The steel trembled with every truck that rolled past, the sound ringing like some giant instrument being played by the storm. Noah Reyes held his 3-year-old daughter, Maya, close to his chest. His old worn-out coat barely kept in any warmth, but it was the only shield he had. The shirt underneath clung to his back, soaked through. He walked home the same way he always did, head bent low against the rain, every step heavy with thoughts he couldn't shake. Rent was already a week overdue. This morning the landlord had reminded him with that long, dragging tone that stuck like nails in his ears. He had less than $20 left in his pocket. Tomorrow he'd need to buy milk, his work boots, soles worn so thin they slipped on wet stairs, worries he knew by heart. They never left. He thought about Sarah, his wife, the night she died. The fire had swallowed their small apartment, smoke so thick it felt like a physical wall. He had run in, carried out newborn Maya, but Sarah never made it back. That memory was a splinter that never stopped digging. Every time Maya asked, "Where's Mommy?" it felt like someone's hand squeezed the life out of his chest. And tonight, that memory looped again, same reel on repeat. Then he saw the girl, a thin figure balanced on the wrong side of the railing, barefoot toes gripping slick steel. Her dress clung to her body, her soaked hair whipping across her face in the wind. Arms spread slightly, like she was ready to let go. Noah froze, his heart skipping. 2 seconds, that's all he had. If he ran, he might slip, take Maya with him. If he stayed still, she'd be gone. Sarah's voice came back to him. "Noah, please, don't leave anyone behind." He ran. His boots pounded the steel deck. Maya woke with a sharp cry. "Daddy!" Noah didn't stop. He yanked off his belt, looped it around a post, cinched it tight across his waist, a crude anchor. Then the girl slipped. His hand shot out and caught her wrist. Ice cold, slick, fragile. Her whole body dangled over the side, hair flying wild in the storm. The belt bit into his ribs, pain like a knife. His arm burned, shaking under the weight. "Don't you let go!" he roared. She sobbed, her voice breaking. I've got no one left. I'm so tired." And suddenly, he was back in the fire, holding infant Maya, while Sarah screamed from behind the flames. He hadn't been able to save her. If he'd said then, "I'm too tired," what would have become of his baby girl? Gritting his teeth, he shouted into the wind, "Listen to me. Tonight is not your ending. If you fall, what's left for the rest of us? Me and my daughter, we can be your someone, at least tonight. Don't you quit on me now?" Her eyes searched his, lost and glassy. Gravity tugged at her like a merciless hand. He braced himself, counted off. 1, bend your wrist in. 2, I'll pull. You kick your heel on the edge. 3. They moved together. Her knee scraped hard against the railing, skin tearing. Noah roared, hauling with the last of his strength. In one brutal surge, he dragged her over. They collapsed on the freezing deck, Maya sobbing, the girl shivering uncontrollably in his arms. He held her tight, gasping. "It's over. You're safe. You're safe." She couldn't speak, just pressed her face into his chest, tears disappearing into the rain. They stumbled toward the bus stop at the end of the bridge. The glass shelter leaked streams of water down its sides, the metal bench cold as stone. Noah peeled off his coat and draped it around her shoulders. She clutched it like a life raft, even as she whispered, You, you don't have to. He poured the last lukewarm tea from his dented thermos, handed it over. She held it in both hands, steam rising to her face like a late apology from the night. Maya rubbed her eyes, murmured, Lady, are you cold? The girl froze, staring at the tiny hand reaching out to touch hers. A crooked smile broke across her lips. Yes, but a little better now. Silence settled in. Rain tapped the roof like an impatient clock. Noah's breathing was still rough, his heart a wild drum. In his head, that voice again, You can save someone else, Noah. But can you save yourself? The girl whispered. Why did you help me? Noah looked at Maya, now half asleep again, and answered softly, Because no one deserves to end their story to the sound of the wind. Not tonight. A beat-up cab rolled up, tires slicing through puddles. Noah waved it down, lifted Maya, and guided the girl inside. The ride was silent. Streetlights streaked across the glass, painting her face in fragments. She looked like a cracked statue, still trembling, but not shattered. She held his coat in a death grip, as if someone might take it from her. Noah stared out at the blur of the city. The same thought circled. If I'd come 2 minutes later, would I be staring at a body bobbing in the river right now? His chest tightened at the idea. The cab stopped. He carried Maya, half asleep, and led the girl to the door he knew by heart. Mrs. Alvarez opened almost instantly at his 3 familiar knocks. Dios mío, you two look like drowned rats, she scolded, pulling them in. The little kitchen smelled of cinnamon and onions, golden light softening every corner. A pot of chicken soup bubbled on the stove. Her fat orange cat blinked from the windowsill, unimpressed, then went back to sleep. She shoved a dry towel and a chipped mug of tea into the girl's hands. Drink. Hot fixes everything. The girl's hand shook as she held it. Tears still glistened at the corners of her eyes. She stared into nothing, afraid that if she looked up, the world would disappear. Noah laid Maya on the couch, tucked a faded blanket over her small body. He sat against the wall, eyes drifting to his shadow on the tiles. That shadow looked older than him, shoulders bowed, clothes frayed. What do I have left to give anyone, except these calloused hands? Finally the girl spoke, her voice barely there. You didn't have to. You could have dropped me anywhere. I can take care of myself. Noah gave a dry laugh, not cruel but tired. Take care of yourself? How? Barefoot, in a soaked dress, shaking like a leaf? You can walk out that door if you want. But at least tonight, you won't be on the street. She stayed quiet. Her fingers clutched the mug, knuckles raw and red. After a long pause, she whispered, almost to herself, All my life, people have taken from me. Tonight, you didn't take, you gave. He didn't answer. Some words don't need replies. He just watched Maya sleeping, little brow furrowed in some dream, hair spread across the pillow. He brushed her hair back, thinking, if I fall tomorrow, who's going to hold her then? The kitchen was thick with silence, broken only by the spoon tapping the pot as Mrs. Alvarez stirred. The smell of cinnamon, broth, fried onion warmed the air, pushing the damp chill outside. The girl asked softly, What's your name? Noah. I'm Sarah. Her voice cracked on the last syllable, as if no one had said it gently in a long time. Their eyes met. In Sarah's gaze he saw something familiar, the same hollow he carried when he thought of Sarah, the hollow of someone who had lost their anchor and had nothing left to hold on to. Maya stirred, mumbling in her sleep. "Daddy." Noah smoothed her hair, then lifted his eyes. "I won't ask you why. Not tonight. Tomorrow if you want, tell me. If not, that's fine. But from now till morning, you're safe." Sarah bit her lip, tightened her grip on his coat. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, she nodded, as if nodding to herself. A few minutes later, Mrs. Alvarez plunked the soup pot on the table, ladling it into 3 bowls. "Eat. Hot food's the best medicine." Noah ate fast, each spoonful landing in his empty stomach like fire spreading warmth. He glanced over. Sarah ate slow, hands still trembling now and then, but the color was coming back to her cheeks. And for the first time he thought, maybe tonight she'll make it. Just tonight. And that's enough. Outside, the rain tapered off. The clock ticked loud on the wall. Another long night would pass. And in that tiny kitchen, 3 strangers sat together, saying little. But warmth was enough. Sometimes a new beginning doesn't come with miracles. It comes with a chipped mug of tea, an old coat, and the kind of silence safe enough for someone to finally breathe. Morning crept in reluctantly, the kind of gray dawn New York often coughed up after a storm. A strip of pale light pushed through the fogged kitchen window. The smell of last night lingered. Cinnamon, broth, and that faint metallic tang of rain still clinging to everything. Noah woke stiff, every bone in his back complaining after a night on Mrs. Alvarez's couch. He rubbed his eyes, feeling the scratch of exhaustion in them. Maya was curled up beside him under a blanket that had probably seen more winters than she had, her tiny fist clutching her old stuffed bear. And then there was Sarah. She hadn't moved from the table. Her head was resting on her folded arms, dark hair tumbling around her like a curtain. His coat, his one decent coat, was still wrapped around her narrow shoulders. In the daylight, she looked younger than he'd thought, pale, fragile, and the shadows under her eyes told him sleep hadn't been kind to her either. Noah pushed himself up, bones popping, and set a kettle on the little stove. The hiss of flame and the faint rattle of boiling water filled the silence. Sarah stirred at the sound, blinking like she wasn't sure where she was. Her eyes darted around, finally landing on him. "You all right?" His voice came out rough, like gravel. She gave the smallest nod, though her gaze was still distant. She inhaled, catching the faint scent of tea. A murmur slipped out, soft and almost childlike. "It's been forever since I smelled something warm." Noah didn't answer. He poured tea into a chipped mug and slid it toward her. She took it with both hands, still trembling. After a moment, she looked at him, lips barely moving. "Thank you. For last night." He cut her off gently. "Don't. You don't owe me thanks. What matters is, you're here this morning." Her mouth closed. Her eyes, though, kept wandering, like she was searching for something on the wall, or maybe just trying to hide from herself. Then, almost out of nowhere, she asked, "Do you have family? I mean, besides her?" Her chin tilted toward the couch where Maya slept. Noah froze for a beat, then said quietly, "I did. Once. Now it's just me and Maya." He didn't want to say more, but the memory clawed its way up anyway. Sarah's face, her scream behind the wall of fire, the heat, the smoke, the moment everything collapsed. He clenched his jaw, his throat locked up. Sarah saw it in his eyes. She didn't press. Instead, her voice softened. "I lost my mom at 16. She was everything to me. We used to walk the Brooklyn Bridge. She said it was healing, standing between one world and another. After she died, it was just me and my father. He shut down. All work, no heart. Like a machine. Her hands tightened around the mug, knuckles white. He forced me into business school. Said feelings were weakness. And now, he's marrying me off to his partner's son. Says I only matter if I serve the legacy. When I pushed back, he told me to walk away. Lose it all. The name, the money, the home. Gone. Noah listened. Didn't interrupt. He knew that look. Not the look of poverty. The look of someone stripped of choice. Maya stirred. Tiny voice breaking the heaviness. Daddy, hungry. Noah scooped her into his lap, spooned the leftover soup into a bowl. She ate, blinking sleepily, then turned her big eyes to Sarah. What's your name? Maya asked. Sarah, she said, hesitating. Maya grinned, a messy grin with soup on her lip. That's a princess name. Daddy tells me princess stories. For the first time, Sarah laughed. It was rough, fragile but real. Noah's head turned instinctively at the sound. For just a second, she wasn't the girl on the bridge. She was just a girl, young, alive. By noon, Noah had to leave for work. He lingered at the door, glancing back at Sarah like he was leaving something fragile on a windowsill. Mrs. Alvarez waved her hand. Go, go. I'll keep both of your girls safe. Noah gave her a grateful nod, then trudged to the construction site. All day he hammered, hauled, climbed scaffolding. But in his head, he saw her, sitting in the warmth of that kitchen, holding his coat like it was the last thing tethering her to earth. Why the hell did he care so much? He didn't know. Maybe because he'd seen that emptiness before, in his own mirror. When he came home that night, sweat and grime sticking to his skin, he found Maya on the floor, scattered puzzle pieces around her. And Sarah, sitting cross-legged, listening as Maya chattered, nodding, smiling. The kind of smile you give when you actually want to hear the details, even the silly ones. The next morning, Noah woke later than usual. The apartment was quiet, too quiet. He rolled over, expecting to see Sarah curled up on the couch under his coat, but the couch was empty. The kitchen, too, empty, except for a chipped mug still holding cold tea, and beside it, a folded piece of paper. He unfolded it slowly. The handwriting was neat, but shaky. Thank you for not letting go. You reminded me I still matter, but I need to find my own way. Please don't look for me. I'll be okay. Sarah. Noah stood there for a long time, the note trembling in his hand. That hollow space in his chest cracked open again, the same hollow Sarah had left. He turned to Maya, still asleep, clutching her teddy bear, blissfully unaware. She didn't know the girl who'd laughed at her puzzles last night, who had shared soup and warmth, was already gone. Noah folded the note, shoved it into his pocket. Then he sat down hard at the table, pressed his calloused hands against his face. His shoulders trembled with something between anger and grief. That day, the site felt like a prison yard. The scaffolding swayed under his weight, each hammer strike echoing in his bones. His patched-up boots rubbed his heels raw, and every clang of steel seemed to repeat the same words in his head. Don't look for me. I'll be okay. Okay, he muttered bitterly under his breath. Sure, that's what people say right before they fall apart. At lunch, he sat apart, chewing on a stale sandwich. The guys swapped jokes, cursed about the Yankees. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with tattoos crawling up his neck, clapped Noah's shoulder. You good, Reyes? You look like death warmed over. "I'm fine," Noah muttered. The guy chuckled. "Yeah, you and every guy who's not fine." He turned back to his buddies. Noah didn't even try to join in. That night, tucking Maya in, her small voice cut through him. "Daddy, where's Miss Sarah?" Noah froze. How do you tell a 3-year-old the truth, that someone she liked, someone who made her laugh, walked out without saying goodbye? "She had to go away for a while," he said softly, brushing Maya's hair back. "But she'll remember you." Maya blinked, then whispered, "I miss her." His throat burned. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Me too, baby. Me too." A week passed. Noah worked himself raw, took extra shifts, lugged beams, did every dirty job nobody else wanted. His hands cracked and bled. His back screamed. But he kept moving. At night, lying beside Maya, he stared at the ceiling and saw Sarah's face. The way she'd looked at him across that little kitchen table, like she'd finally found a safe corner of the world. One evening, Maya came home from daycare with a drawing. 3 stick figures, 1 tall, 1 medium, 1 tiny with pigtails. Underneath, in shaky letters, it said, "Daddy, me, Sarah." Noah's chest tightened until he couldn't breathe. She barely knew her letters, but she remembered that name. He folded the drawing carefully, tucked it in his pocket. That night, he pulled it out again and again, staring until the lines blurred. The city kept turning, but Noah felt stuck. Stuck back at that bus stop in the rain. He couldn't stop asking himself, where is she now? Who's keeping her from stepping off another edge? One evening, on his way home from a night shift, he heard shouting down the block. A girl's voice, sharp, angry. For a heartbeat, his heart leapt. It sounded like her. He rushed toward it, but it wasn't Sarah. Just another girl, black hair plastered by rain, yelling at some drunk boyfriend. Noah stopped short, soaked, his chest dropping like a stone. He turned away, shame and disappointment heavy as cement. He realized then, since that night, she was burned into him. Every passing shadow, every laugh in the rain made him think of her. A month later, an envelope showed up at the site. No name on the front, just his work address scrawled in plain ink. Inside, a $50 bill, and a single scrap of paper. For Maya, S. Noah's hands shook, his heart hammered. She was alive. Somewhere in this city, she was alive. But the relief twisted into something else. No address, no phone number, just a letter and a signature, as if she were whispering, "I exist, but don't come looking." That night, he sat at his table, both notes in front of him, one telling him goodbye, the other telling him she still thought of Maya. He didn't know whether to curse or to thank her. Part of him wanted to scour the city, pound on every door. Another part whispered, "You promised. Respect her choice." He dropped his head into his hands. The silence of the apartment pressed down on him. Maya stirred in her sleep, murmuring Sarah's name. Noah whispered back into the dark, "I don't know if I can keep that promise." Time trickled on. Maya grew. Her words got clearer, sharper. Sometimes she'd ask, out of the blue, "Daddy, will Miss Sarah come back?" Noah forced a smile each time. "Maybe, sweetheart? Maybe." But when the apartment was quiet, when the city outside finally shut up for a moment, he asked himself the same thing. If I see her again, who will she be? Just another lost soul drifting through the streets? Or someone carrying secrets I never imagined? He didn't know, but deep down, in the quiet, stubborn place inside his chest, he felt it like a heartbeat. This wasn't the end of her story, or his, For a heartbeat, Noah felt something in the room shift. The air didn't seem so heavy. His apartment, normally a cave of peeling paint and silence, almost felt like a home. But worry slipped in, like a draft under the door. Sarah didn't belong here. Everything about her said she came from a world he didn't touch. And sooner or later, that world would come calling. Later, when Maya was asleep, Noah sat repairing his boots. The leather was shot, the thread barely holding. Sarah watched for a while. Finally, she said, "You try to hold everything together with your own hands." He looked up, frowning. "Sometimes," she went on, "you can't. Sometimes no one can. And no one should have to." Noah gave a crooked smile. "That sounds like something people say when they've had choices. I don't. Not me. I can't let this kid lose one more thing." The words hung in the small room. The clock ticked. Maya breathed softly in the background. The morning air bit like ice. Color drained out of the world. The construction site still reeked of last night's rain, puddles glinting on rough concrete. Noah tugged his hard hat low and cinched the harness tight around his waist. Above him, the scaffold loomed into the gray sky, steel beams stretching like the ribs of some rusted beast. "Cable's loose on the east corner. Watch it," Paul the foreman barked from below. Noah nodded. His hand brushed his chest pocket, making sure Maya's childish drawing was still tucked there. He didn't need to see it. Just knowing it was there was enough. A little amulet to keep him steady. Finish the shift. Grab gloves for her on the way home, he thought. Don't forget. The metal steps groaned under his boots. The air smelled of wet iron. By the second level, the wind knifed across his face. He spotted the cable. Rust-eaten, clamp half open. Should have been replaced last week. "Reyes! Shift that plank over!" someone hollered. Noah bent, shouldering the heavy board. Sweat trickled despite the cold. Then came the sound. Sharp, brutal, unmistakable. Snap. The scaffold jerked. The floor bucked like a living thing. Anchors gone. The board slid. The frame shook. Noah grabbed for the crossbar. Too late. The whole structure screamed, tilted. Gravity punched him. For a frozen heartbeat, memories fired across his mind like sparks. Maya giggling in her cat boots. Sarah's arms around their baby, rain whipping on the bridge, a hand cold as death in his own. Not again. God, not again. He fell. The impact slammed him onto the deck below, then flung him into the safety rail. A sickening crack. Ribs, maybe more. Air exploded out of his lungs. Dust, blood, iron in his mouth. "Call 911, Paul roared. Feet thundered. Metal clanged. Noah tried to blink. The puddle beside his cheek reflected the gray sky like an accusing eye. Maya, don't let her see me like this. He forced his fingers to twitch. Blood smeared his palm. Good, he could still feel. Breathing stabbed fire through his chest. Not good. Darkness pressed in, pierced by sirens drawing closer. When he woke, antiseptic burned his nose. White light stabbed his eyes. A machine beeped steady beside him. He shifted. Pain tore through his ribs like glass. "You're awake." Noah turned. Sarah stood there, a bouquet of pale flowers tucked against her coat, hair tied back. Her eyes, tired, rimmed red, but still shining, as if refusing to dim. "Sarah?" His tongue fumbled over the name. "Yes." She nodded, calm, but he saw her fingers trembling. He tried to sit up. Pain slammed him back. Sarah caught him, her hand cool but firm behind his shoulders. "Don't. Doctor said ribs fractured. Bleeding in your back. Move wrong. You'll make it worse. He lay still, blinking against the burn in his eyes. I'm the one who pulled her off a railing, and now I can't even get up on my own. I thought I'd never see you again. I'm sorry, her voice cracked. I left because I couldn't breathe. But when I saw the news about your accident, she shook her head. I couldn't stay away. Noah swallowed hard, emotions tangled in his chest. Joy, anger, grief, relief. She set the bouquet in a glass jar. There's something I never told you. My full name is Aurora Whitmore. The room froze. Noah's stomach dropped. Everyone knew the name. Whitmore, real estate tycoon, billionaire, plastered on skyscrapers. He rasped, "You're his daughter?" Sarah nodded, guilt dark in her eyes. I lied because I was afraid. Afraid you'd look at me differently. That night on the bridge, I wasn't an heiress. I was just a girl who wanted to end it. Noah gave a bitter laugh, raw and jagged. Different? Damn right I see you different. You grew up where people don't fall without a net. Me? When I fall, I drag an ER team down with me. I don't care. Sarah's voice rose steadier. I'm here because you gave me a reason to live. He turned away, staring at a hairline crack in the wall. Sarah's face flickered in memory. Do I have any right to hold Sarah here when my own world is already rubble? The storm outside leaked inside. Reporters clogged the hallways, cameras flashing. Do you love Aurora? Are you using her? Maya curled against him, clutching her teddy. Sarah stood at the door, arms wide, shouting, "Enough!" Security shoved the mob back. By noon, headlines screamed, Aurora Whitmore spotted with Brooklyn laborer. Scandal or secret romance? Another read, tragic firefighter, turned construction worker, dark past resurfaces. Noah's breath hitched. They twisted the fire, painted him as a coward. They don't know. They don't care. They just need ink to sell. Sarah's grip on his hand tightened. If we shrink, they win. He wanted to believe her, but every word felt like another bag of cement on his chest. That afternoon, the door swung open. Harold Whitmore entered. Two bodyguards loomed behind him. Black suit, silver tie, cologne sharp enough to sting. His presence sucked the oxygen out of the room. Aurora, we're leaving. His tone brooked no discussion. Sarah rose. Number not this time. Only then did Harold glance at Noah, as if noticing a stain. You're Reyes, he spat the name. Noah fought to straighten his broken frame. I'm Noah. Harold studied him with a smile sharp as glass. He placed an envelope on the side table beside the flowers. Medical bills. And enough for you to end this fantasy. Father, don't, Sarah snapped. Noah stared at the envelope. How much buys a stormy night? How much buys the grip of a hand refusing to let go? He didn't move. Harold leaned closer, voice silk over steel. You'll walk away. Do that, and we forget you exist. Stick around, and what you saw out there, those vultures with cameras, that's child's play. I'll take your job, your reputation, even your little girl's future. This isn't a threat. It's a forecast. At the mention of Maya, fire surged in Noah's chest. His voice rasped. You can buy the city, but you don't own her heart. Harold's smile widened, cruel. Hearts are bedtime stories for poor men. Power runs this world. Contracts, courts, money. Be smart. Take the out. Sarah stepped between them, trembling but unyielding. I'm not a deal on your table. I'm your daughter. No, Harold said coldly. You're an asset, and I won't let you depreciate. Silence crushed the room. Finally, Noah croaked, Step outside. Not here. Not in front of my kid. They moved to the family lounge. Fluorescent lights, plastic chairs, coffee machine humming. Noah gripped the table edge until his knuckles bleached. You can destroy me. I know that. But don't think for a second I'm here for money. I just don't know if I can protect her. Or Maya Harold's eyes gleamed, not just with disdain, but certainty. At last, honesty. Walk away and we'll spin the press. Protect her name, protect your child. You'll have enough to scrape by. Quietly. For a second the offer shimmered like a bridge across a chasm. The easy way. He saw himself carrying Maya across. No stones hurled, no flashbulbs. But then the image shattered with one memory, rain, steel, and Sarah's voice begging, "Don't." "I don't sell promises." Noah said each word like hauling bricks. That night, I swore it wasn't the end. I'm not turning it into a ticket out. Harold's eyes narrowed. You couldn't even save your wife? You'll save my daughter? His words hit like hammer blows. Noah didn't flinch. I failed once, but I still went in, and I'll go in again if Sarah wants me there. Harold turned, bored now, then live with the consequences. His shoes clicked like gunshots as he left. Noah sagged against the table, knees trembling. Did I just doom us all? Back in the room, Sarah stood waiting, arms around herself. What did he say? Enough to bury me, Noah admitted. Said if I leave, it all goes quiet. Her jaw tightened. Quiet isn't living. I don't want safe lies. I want the truth. I want you beside me. He exhaled, ribs stabbing. That's all I can give, to stand beside you. Outside, the cameras flashed again. Sarah shut her eyes, then opened them, calmer, fiercer. Then we start here. The nurse poked in, weary. Visiting hours are over. Sarah bent, kissed Maya's forehead, leaned close to Noah. I'll be back, no matter who tries to stop me. She left. The room hummed with machines. Fear still prowled Noah's chest, but beside it, something else settled in. Resolve, stubborn and heavy. On the table, the envelope lay unopened. Noah shoved it into his coat pocket. He'd figure it out. He always did. The fallout hit harder than any fall from a scaffold. By the next morning, Noah's face was splashed across tabloids, talk shows, gossip blogs. Photographers camped outside the hospital like vultures circling a carcass. Aurora Whitmore's forbidden romance, working-class hero or parasite. Tragic firefighter who let wife die, now seduces a billionaire heiress. The headlines cut like blades. Noah skimmed one article left on his bed by a careless nurse. His stomach turned when he saw the words, Sources claim Reyes abandoned his duty during the fires that killed his wife. Lies, twisted like barbed wire. He wanted to scream, to tell the world he had run into those flames, that he had carried Maya out in his arms. But truth didn't sell papers. Scandal did. The phone from his job site buzzed once. Paul's voice was grim. Noah, I tried. The higher-ups don't want the heat. You're off the roster. Sorry, man. Click. Line dead. Noah stared at the ceiling, chest burning with shame. Out there, men he worked shoulder to shoulder with were whispering now. And in here, Maya lay curled beside him, clutching her teddy, murmuring Sarah's name in her sleep. That night, when he carried Maya into their apartment, neighbors peeked through cracked doors. He heard the hiss of voices behind him. That's him, the guy in the papers. Hooked the Whitmore girl. Let's see how long that lasts. Noah closed the door, pressed his back to it, fists trembling. He wanted to break something, but Maya's big eyes blinked up at him, scared. So he crouched, forcing a smile, and hugged her. "It's okay, baby. Daddy's here." Meanwhile, Sarah's world shrank to a cage. Her father locked her in the penthouse. Guards at the door, phone confiscated, internet cut. The apartment glittered with chandeliers and glass, but it felt like a coffin lined with gold. At night she sat at the window, staring at the Brooklyn Bridge glowing faintly in the distance. The place where she had almost ended. The place Noah had pulled her back. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "You're an asset." Assets don't depreciate, but then her mother's voice would push through. Soft, loving, from years ago. "Aurora, you are not property. You are flesh and soul. Don't forget." Sarah pulled out a forgotten notebook from the drawer, scribbling by moonlight. "Noah, I miss the little kitchen, the smell of cinnamon, the tick of the old clock. I miss Maya's eyes when she called my name. Here I have everything, crystal, silk sheets, wine racks. But there's no air to breathe. If I stay, one day I'll end up back on that railing. And next time, no one will pull me back." Tears blurred the ink. On the third night, Harold came himself. He entered like a storm in a tailored suit, bodyguards at his flanks. "I assume you've come to your senses," he said, pouring a glass of brandy like they were in a board meeting. "I won't go back," Sarah answered, voice steady, though her hands shook. Harold laughed, sharp and joyless. "That man can't even keep his own life together. You think he can keep you safe? He'll drain your hope until you're empty," Sarah snapped, her voice cracking the air. "I'd rather put my faith in a poor man's truth than choke on a rich man's lie." Harold's face darkened. He slammed the glass down, amber liquid splashing. "If you walk out that door, you're no longer my daughter." He stormed out, leaving silence heavy as stone. Sarah sat trembling, but inside her, something had shifted. She wasn't the girl clinging to a railing anymore. That night had lit a fire no prison could snuff out. By the fourth day, gossip shows were replaying Noah's fall in slow motion, overlaid with dramatic music. The narrative was clear. He was reckless, broken, a man unfit for someone like Aurora Whitmore. Noah saw the headlines, felt his chest tighten. At night, with Maya asleep, he whispered into the dark, "Maybe I was wrong to let her in." Rain tapped the window, reminding him of that night. He could still feel her trembling wrist in his hand. He couldn't forget. Back in the penthouse, Sarah paced. Her guards switched shifts at 2 a.m. That was the crack in the armor. She packed a small backpack, a couple plain clothes her mother had once bought, a photo tucked in the wallet. She pulled on a gray hoodie, tied the strings tight. Her heart hammered like a drumline. She opened the balcony door. Cold rain hit her face, shocking but freeing. She slipped onto the fire escape, sneakers clanging on wet steel. Every step down echoed like a countdown. At the bottom, she shoved the heavy door open. A rush of wind and rain swept in, soaking her in seconds. For a moment she stood, chest heaving, tears mixing with the downpour. Ahead, through the storm, the Brooklyn Bridge blurred in the mist, glowing faintly. This time she wasn't running from life. She was running toward it. She pulled her hood tight, gripped the straps of her backpack, and stepped into the night. Rain swallowed the city that night, but Sarah kept walking, sneakers soaked, gray hoodie clinging to her. Each breath cut cold into her lungs, but she'd never felt more alive. In the distance, the Brooklyn Bridge shimmered faintly, like a beacon. She had nowhere else to go. Only one name echoed in her mind: Noah. When Noah heard pounding at the door around 4 a.m., He figured it was a drunk neighbor or some tabloid hack who'd tracked him down. But when he pulled the door open, the sight froze him. Sarah, drenched head to toe, eyes shining in the dark, steam puffed from her breath. "Where's Maya?" she blurted, shivering. For a moment Noah just stared, afraid if he blinked she'd vanish. Then he yanked her inside and slammed the door. The noise woke Maya. She rubbed her eyes, then lit up. "Miss Sarah!" She scrambled off the couch, bare feet slapping the floor, and threw her arms around Sarah's legs. Sarah dropped to her knees, hugging the little girl tight. Tears spilled, mingling with raindrops on her cheeks. "I missed you so much, Maya." Noah watched them, chest tightening. For a heartbeat, the dingy apartment glowed with a light no lamp could make. News of Sarah's disappearance from the penthouse hit the wires within hours. By the next day, a black luxury car idled at the curb outside Noah's building. Harold Whitmore stepped out, flanked by guards, his polished shoes gleaming like weapons. He entered the cramped apartment with a look of disgust. "Aurora," he hissed, "do you have any idea what you've done? You've ruined everything." Sarah squared her shoulders, shielding Noah and Maya. "No, Father. I've just begun. I won't live in your golden prison anymore." "And you choose him?" Harold jabbed a finger toward Noah, his voice dripping contempt. Noah rose, shaky but firm. "Call me whatever you want. But when she was standing on that bridge ready to jump, where were you? I was the one who held her back." Harold's eyes flicked, a rare crack of hesitation. But he masked it quickly. "If you walk away with him, you lose everything. Money, name." Future Sarah lifted her chin. "Then at least I keep the one thing that matters. Myself." For a long second Harold just stared. Then he spun on his heel and stalked out. But before stepping through the door, his gaze lingered on Maya. This time, there wasn't only disdain. There was anger, frustration, and a flicker of worry. That night, the three of them sat at the scarred kitchen table, the single yellow bulb casting halos on the peeling walls. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sarah reached for Noah's hand. "If we go on, we'll be walking away from everything. I've lost Whitmore. You've lost your job." Noah stared at his rough palms, then at Maya scribbling another stick figure family with crayons. He exhaled slowly. "I don't need a name. I don't need money. I just need her safe. And if you choose to stay, I'll stand beside you." Sarah smiled through tears. "That's enough." In that shabby kitchen, without champagne or contracts, they forged a promise. Plain, fragile, but stronger than any deal Harold could sign. The morning after their choice, the city smelled washed clean. Pale sunlight stretched across wet sidewalks, pigeons pecked at crumbs, buses hissed past taxis honking in frustration. Inside the little kitchen, coffee brewed, its steam blending with cinnamon left over from Mrs. Alvarez's pantry. Sarah flipped open a notebook, drew a line straight down the middle, fear on one side, desire on the other. She scribbled her name under desire. "No more running away. From now on, I run toward." She looked up and found Noah watching her. His face was tired, worried, but beneath it burned something stubborn. "Let's open a place," she said. "A coffee shop. Call it Second Chances." Noah gave a dry laugh, rubbing his scarred hands. He thought of bills, of ribs still aching, of the envelope he had mailed back to Harold that morning. Scared? Sure, but fear had chased him long enough. He nodded. "Second Chances it is." They found a small storefront tucked behind a market. The floorboards groaned, the ceiling sagged, water stains streaked the walls like old maps. The landlord, an Italian grandmother with thick glasses, listened to their story, edited, softened, and sighed. She scribbled the lowest rent she'd ever offered. "This neighborhood runs on coffee and stories," she said. "Bring both." Day one was sweat and dust. The scrape of brooms, hammer strikes, the whine of a saw. It was a construction symphony. Noah built the counter from salvaged boards, his ribs flaring each time he bent. But he didn't stop. "Every nail I drive is a nail against what they said about me," he thought. Sarah rolled paint across the walls, white washing over gray scars. "I'm building, not being built upon." Maya sat on the floor, tongue poking out in concentration, drawing a logo. 3 mugs holding hands. Underneath, blocky letters. "Second chance." She frowned. "I missed a D." Sarah scooped her into a hug, laughing through damp eyes. "Still perfect. Like us." Mrs. Alvarez dropped by with dish towels and cinnamon sticks. "So it smells like home," she said, planting a kiss on Maya's cheek. Even her fat orange cat patted in, claimed the windowsill like a throne. That night they practiced. Grinder roaring, beans popping, steam hissing like miniature storms. Sarah fumbled latte art. First a blob, then a lopsided heart, then something leaf-shaped if squinted at kindly. Noah guided her hand. "Slow down. Breathe with it." She realized she was learning not to please her father's standards, but her own. By midnight, the wooden counter smelled of oil. The chalkboard above the door stood ready. Maya climbed on a stool and carefully wrote, "Second chances, coffee and hope." Chalk dust fell like snow. Noah snapped a photo on his old phone. Warm light, messy letters, his daughter's small hands smudged with white. He held back tears. Cold air, bright sun. Curious neighbors wandered in, drawn by cinnamon and coffee roasting. Sarah stood behind the machine, smiling like a window just opened. Noah greeted each customer, his good mornings, breaking into little pieces of warmth. Maya carried Mrs. Alvarez's cookies from table to table, asking each person, "Do you like second chances?" Most nodded. Some tipped extra. A few shared their own stories. Failed interviews, first AA meetings, second tries at love. The bell chimed. A man in a hooded coat slid into a window seat. His voice rasped as he ordered an espresso. Sarah set the cup down, hand faltering. She knew that posture before she saw his face. Her father lowered his sunglasses. For once, his eyes held no armor. He set a velvet box on the table, pushed it toward her. "Your mother's," he said. Inside lay a simple gold band, thin, old, a pale stone glinting in the center. Not flashy, not valuable, except to memory. Sarah's breath caught. Harold sipped the espresso. "I've told the lawyers to ease off the smear. Some things are already out there. I can't erase it all." He looked around the little cafe, at the scratched floors, the second-hand chairs, the sunlight spilling across the counter. For the first time, his voice softened. "I don't understand your choice, but I see you breathing." He stood. "Espresso's balanced. Not bad." Then he left. The bell rang a thin, trembling note. Noah wiped his hands on a towel, heart hammering. He didn't need Harold's approval, not anymore. He just walked to Sarah, rested his rough palm on hers. "You okay?" She nodded, eyes damp. "I am." Weeks turned to months. The cafe wasn't always busy, but it was enough. On slow afternoons, Sarah played soft jazz, Noah fixed wobbly chairs, Maya scribbled homework, and doodled a logo with 4 mugs this time, One small mug in the middle, like an unspoken dream. At night they closed shop together. City lights painted long streaks across the floor. Happiness had a rhythm now. Sweat, short breaths, little victories. Noah still jolted awake from scaffold nightmares, but each morning he ground the first batch of beans, steady as a ritual. Sarah still caught herself looking over her shoulder, but then the smell of cinnamon and laughter anchored her. One evening, Maya tugged Sarah to a corner. She held up a crayon drawing. 3 people, on the Brooklyn Bridge, paper flowers floating above. "Can we have a wedding here? I can make the flowers." Sarah's throat tightened. She looked at Noah across the counter. He was wiping the grinder, but his eyes had already found hers, waiting like a boy before summer break. She nodded. Yes, they didn't have much, but they didn't need much. Mrs. Alvarez brought flan. The Italian landlord brought homemade wine. Neighbors carried wildflowers in jars, folding chairs under their arms. Even the cat wore a red ribbon, sitting like an honored guest. On a late afternoon, Brooklyn Bridge shimmered in gold light. Wind off the river brushed their cheeks. The place once meant for endings now blazed with beginnings. Sarah wore a simple white dress, no lace, no jewels, just fabric flowing like water. On her wrist, a blue ribbon tied her mother's ring. Maya, giggling, scattered paper flowers from a basket. Noah held Sarah's hand. It was warm now, alive, pulsing. "I can't promise riches," he said, voice steady, "but I promise every morning you'll have the first cup I brew, and every night when darkness comes, I'll be your small lamp." Sarah smiled, whispering, "I do?" Words not of survival, but of choice. They exchanged rings. Her mother's gold band and a thin silver ring Noah had bought from a corner shop. No orchestra, just the city. Waves slapping piers, wind humming, a bike bell ringing like an accidental blessing. In a black car parked nearby, Harold sat watching. His fingers tapped the wheel, face unreadable. He didn't step out. He saw his daughter laughing, unburdened. For once, he didn't try to stop it. When he drove away, his only call was short. Keep the press off them. A ceasefire. Not surrender, but enough. That night, they closed second chances early, and the 3 of them sat on the floor, eating flan with plastic spoons. Light from the single lamp cast soft gold halos. Outside, the street exhaled quiet. Maya leaned against Noah, whispered into Sarah's ear, "Mom." The word landed softly, yet echoed forever. Sarah pulled her close, eyes burning. "I'm not on the edge anymore. I'm in the center." Noah watched them, the hollow in his chest filling with something solid, warm. He flipped the sign on the door. "See you tomorrow." The smell of coffee lingered in the wood. The curtains their clothes. On the glass, second chances reflected the night sky backwards, like a promise written the other way, but still true. And out across the river, Brooklyn Bridge stretched under the stars. No longer a ledge for endings, but a path toward every tomorrow.